Okay, we need to implement the friends dialog class next, which is used to pop up warning or confirmation messages to the user, as I explained in the last video. So let's start doing that right now. Okay, so let's create the friends dialog class, but what we need to do first is create what is a fairly simple layout. So we're going to create that which the dialog is going to use. So we're going to create a new layout. We're going to call that friend_dialog.xml. Okay, we're going to change the width and the height to fill parent. Orientation is vertical is fine. We're going to introduce a background. Padding, we're going to put some padding of just 10 dp. And we can put gravity center. So next we need to add a text view. The layout and the width are both going to be wrap content. We need an ID. Just going to call that pop-up message. And text size. What we'll do is we'll go back to our demands.xml. And let's just create another entry in there. We'll call this pop-up message. And we'll leave it at 25 dp. Go back to our layout. So text size, dimension, and it will be pop-up message. So that's the size, the text size we're going to use. And that's it. That's all we need to do. It's a very simple layout because pop-up message is going to contain whatever the message is that we want the user to display. Okay, so we're done with that. So next we want to create the class. So to do that, we're going to select the package, new class, new Java class, friends dialog. So we're going to extend from dialog fragment. Being sure we select the v4 one. So we need a few fields now. We need private, layout inflator, which we've seen before now, layout inflator. Now we want a couple of types. We talked about these in the previous video. Now these need to be public because they're going to be accessible from other places. Public static final string. Dialog type, remember we talked about that in the previous video. We're going to set that to the word command. So that's the identifier that will tell this class what the whether there's a valid command or not. So that's the name of it. Now we need to define some entries. Well, we're going to define one entry now, and we'll come back as we use the other dialog types and add to this class. But now we're going to just do delete record equals delete record. It doesn't really want to matter what we set the contents to in here, so long as we've got that definition correct. So we go back to our custom adapter. We've now got dialog type, which is working, and delete record, which is working. So long as we use that static final class, as you can see there, it's going to work just fine. Again, we'll update the other types because there's two other types of dialogs that I mentioned that we're using in this app. We'll come back and do that later. So let's override some functions. The first one we want to override now is the onCreateDialog, and that is unsurprisingly when we're creating a dialog. So we're going to overwrite that on create dialog. And what we're going to do is we're going to type alert dialog dot builder equals new alert dialog dot builder and get activity. And layout inflator equals get activity dot get layout inflator. That should have been builder there. Final view and we're going to set that to mlayout inflator dot inflate r dot layout dot friend layout, the one we just created, and null on the end. And null means that we're not defining a parent there, we're leaving that null by default. So next we need to retrieve the command. So we're just going to do a string command equals get arguments dot get string dialog type. So let's get the type of the command that's been passed to this routine via the arguments. Then we're going to do a check if command dot equals delete record. So if we've specified delete record as the parameter in the arguments, I should say, we can put int id equals get arguments dot get int. Again, we know that we can do this because by specifying the command type of delete record, we know that we've passed this parameter. And we look for friends columns dot friends ID. So we want to retrieve that ID. Ultimately, we'll need that for deletion purposes. And we're also going to extract the name. Name equals get arguments dot get string friends columns dot friends name, and we'll need that name to show on the screen. Now we want to reference the text view that we created in the XML. So text view pop-up message equals text view view.find by ID, and of course it's r.id pop-up message. So that's our text view. And then we can do a pop-up message dot set text, and let's make the message, are you sure you want to delete name from your friends list? So that's going to be the message that's going to pop up on the screen. And then we need to create our dialog box. So it's builder dot set view. Of course, set view is view. And then we're going to do a dot set positive button. This is going to be the text that's on the positive button, which is, clicking yes or effectively. OK. OK means we're confirming that option. You want to create a listener now. New dialog on click listener. And again, this is what happens if they have clicked it. You can see that code was created for us. So if they have confirmed, then of course we want to use our content resolver we want to actually delete the record. So we're going to activity dot get content resolver. URI equals, and that'll be friends contract dot friends dot build friend URI string dot value ID. So this line of code is creating the URI which contains the record ID so that we can delete it. And because this is an inner class, we need to select final. We need to make sure that that's final. So I'll go back here and make that final. An inner class means that the on-click listener, which is sort of created, as you can see on the screen there. So that's it. So that's going to be the URI, which contains again the record ID, so that we can delete it via the content provider. Then we need to do content resolver dot delete. Of course, it's URI, and then we don't need the other parameters. And the other two parameters are where clause. There's a where clause and a selection clause, which we don't need in this case because we know we just want to delete that one record with that one ID. So at this point, once we've deleted the record, we can type intent. Let's go and return back to the main activity. So I can do intent equals new intent get activity dot get application context and main activity dot class, because that's where we want to go back after this. We also want to do an intent.set flags, intent.flag activity, clear top. And basically what that does, it just makes sure that if there's any other activities that are open, they're cleared, and this one sort of replaces that and it's sort of put on top of it automatically. Then we need to do a start activity, intent. So that's it for now for this dialog. And what we'll be doing is, as we've got other dialogues we need to create, we need to come back here and then we'll extend this and add to that if statement to look for other commands. Okay, then the last thing we need to do down here is we need to do a return builder.create. And that actually basically does it creates the dialog. So if you remember on the previous video, we had a .show. So if we go back and check that code now, we should find that it'll be okay. And what we'll be doing is in future videos, we'll be expanding upon this and we'll be looking for other commands, which means there's other dialog boxes, and writing the code that's appropriate for that. But if we go back to our adapter, you notice now the dialog is working and there's no errors. So again, if we do a .set arguments, you notice it's now accepting that because it knows the type now, it knows that it's a dialog. So it's working fine. So that's it. At this stage, we've finished with Friends dialog. As I said, we'll come back and do some more work on this later when we've got cause to add another dialog. So again, just quickly going through the code so it's clear. It's pretty straightforward if you look at it, but we're creating that message on screen using this layout, very simple layout, which is really just a text field. It's a little box. And the dialog fragment is the code that shows like a little pop-up on the screen. It's a fragment, which we talked about, which is part of the graphical user interface. It doesn't take up the whole screen. It's a little pop-up. So just to be clear again, so the set positive button, we're only adding an unclick listener for the positive OK. There will be a cancel that'll pop up as well, but in that case, we don't need to do anything there. We just want to close that screen down again effectively. So we're only putting the listener, the unclick listener, on the positive button, and only if the OK button is selected do we invoke the code, which of course calls the content provider code to delete that one record, because we're passing the record ID as that parameter via the URI. So that's it. I'll see you in the next video.